Over the next hour, I'm going to have a conversation with Dr. Francis Collins as he reflects on his 12 plus years as NIH director. And we're going to intersperse our discussion with some video clips where we'll hear from some others. But remember, this is only part of the farewell celebration. We've also put together a video album, a multitude of messages from Francis's friends and colleagues wishing him well. But before we go any further, let's hear from the NIH Principal Deputy Director, Dr. Larry Tabak.
Hi, I'm Larry Tabak, Principal Deputy Director of NIH, and starting next Monday, I'll be privileged to begin service as the Acting NIH Director. I want to welcome you to this star-studded virtual farewell extravaganza for NIH Director Dr. Francis Collins. I've been Francis's Principal Deputy since August of 2010. It's been an amazing ride, not always easy, but continually fascinating. We've been through a lot together, some of which you'll hear about more in the coming hour. I'm often asked, what's it like to work for Francis? Simply put, the man is a force of nature. He has done an incredible amount of good and has led NIH through both wonderful times and troubled times. But he has always led with his head and his heart. He's one of the most brilliant people I've ever worked with, but far more important, he has boundless compassion for humankind. Francis's singular focus has always been how NIH can improve people's health and end suffering, and how NIH can provide them with hope. Francis, I've enjoyed a remarkable vantage point to observe your many accomplishments and successes. But few people know the extraordinary passion and energy that you expended to ensure that science, and science alone, would frame the response to the pandemic. The nation, indeed the world, owes you an extraordinary debt of gratitude. Now, I know many of you have said, gosh, we'll miss Francis so much, especially his music. But don't count me out. I have a few tricks up my sleeve.
I'm gonna inject your soul with some sweet rock and roll, no, and shoot you for rhythm and blues.
Thank you, Larry and Benjamin. Now, Francis, before we start talking about your tenure, can we go back to, and you know I like dates, August 17th, 2009. You're being sworn
Did
in
something happen? Oh, yeah.
by then Secretary Kathleen Sebelius. You're with Diane. What was on your mind that day as you began your job as NIH director?
It was a mix of excitement and terror because I realized this is really happening. I've had this experience of running one of the institutes at NIH. Now I'm supposed to run the whole thing? Oh my gosh, do I really know enough to do this? Am I the right guy? Have they made a big mistake here? And how am I going to identify the right priorities and play the role in the way that brings the right people together to come up with the kind of visionary new programs that I believe are possible, but it was still kind of cloudy in my mind how that was going to play out.
What did you see that day as your single biggest challenge?
Well, this was clearly a moment where science was full of potential, but I wouldn't say it was really clear how the priorities for the whole NIH would need to take shape. I'd thought a bit about them in the course of the month or two prior to being actually sworn in. And I wanted to be sure that we filled in some of the places that seemed ripe for potential but hadn't quite come together. And one of those was global health. That surprised people that that was one of my priorities. And another was translation, that we didn't want to be just satisfied with great basic science and wonderful publications in prominent journals. We wanted to move science forward to benefit patients. And there seemed to be, in many instances, kind of a problem getting that to happen. Ultimately, that motivation became NCATS, the National Center for Advancing Translational Sciences. But that took some doing to decide what that should look like and to be sure that there was support for it. Because I also knew that the NIH director doesn't really have that much financial flexibility. The money goes to the institutes. If I was going to do anything meaningful, it would have to be done as a team sport. And I need to get my colleagues excited about the same things, or they weren't going to happen.
Now, so many people want to say thank you and wish you well, but we'd like to start just to hear from a few of them, and I think you may recognize some of them. So
Oh, boy.
let's take a look.
I want to thank Francis Collins. You know, you've done an incredible job, Doc, here at NIH, one of the most important scientists of our time, in my view. And Dr. Collins is an incredible resource for our nation. And I'm grateful, and I mean this sincerely, I'm grateful for everything he's done for this pandemic and advancing all kinds of medical breakthroughs, including mapping the human genome. He recently announced he's going to step down as director of the NIH this month after a truly consequential tenure. But the good news really is Dr. Collins is going to return to the lab, the National Human Genome Research Institute. And we look forward to his unmatched ability to unlock possibilities that are within our reach.
Dr. Francis Collins, thank you for your years of service and for your commitment to science. As you know, I care deeply about NIH. In fact, I grew up spending time, lots of time, in a lab because, as you know, my mother was a breast cancer researcher. And the name NIH was often spoken in our household as my mother worked closely with scientists at the institutes. So I know well the gift you give our world. Scientists dedicate their lives to improving the lives of others. Scientists see what is possible and do the work to make it real. Dr. Collins, you have dedicated your life to this noble pursuit. Through your genetics research, through your work on the Human Genome Project, you have given people hope and a greater understanding of disease. Through your leadership at NIH, you have advanced our efforts on precision medicine and cancer research, and you have helped our nation and our world combat this pandemic. And at the Pasteur Institute in Paris, where I recently visited and where my mother worked, they proudly discussed the scientific collaboration with NIH. They talked about the brilliance of the work coming out of NIH. And this kind of collaboration has flourished under your leadership. You have made our nation proud. And as you return to the lab, I know that you will continue your work to improve lives, because that is the gift you give. Dr. Collins, you have led and you are leading our world toward a better future. And on behalf of our nation, I say thank you. Take care.
Dear Dr. Collins, it takes an extraordinary leader to tackle the biggest scientific challenges of our time. Over 12 years and 3 presidents, you've been that leader at the National Institutes of Health. From launching the BRAIN Initiative to understand the root causes of Alzheimer's and serious brain diseases, to working closely with then Vice President Biden on the Cancer Moonshot Initiative, to helping our country and the world respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. You are in a league of your own, and the American people, well, we're indebted to you. As a man of faith, you've said that if faith has any meaning, it's about truth. And it's about trying to find the truth and then share it with others. Throughout your career, you have pursued truth with persistence, integrity, and the utmost professionalism. On behalf of Team HHS, the Biden-Harris administration, and a grateful nation, thank you for breaking new ground, for saving countless lives, for unleashing innovation that will benefit humanity for generations to come. Dr. Collins, congratulations on a remarkable run as the 16th director of the National Institutes of Health. Salud.
Hello, Francis.
Oh, Jane.
I wish that I could be there on this occasion It's a celebration of all that you've done over so many years for NIH. I think the people you're leaving behind will not be celebrating, but you certainly can look back with a sense of accomplishment and pride. You've helped so many people through difficult situations. You've probably saved lives. You've imparted wisdom to young people coming in at the start of their careers. And now you move on to the next phase in your life, back to your own lab to do your own research. And I hope it will lift a burden off your shoulders, because it must have been a burden, especially during this pandemic, with the great responsibility that you had for this institution. So now I hope, firstly, that you'll be able to really enjoy getting back to your own research, and secondly, you'll have more time to do something that I know you love doing, playing your guitar and singing. And I hope that soon I'll be able to join you and Diane, as I have so often before, for a meal, for friendship, and for some music. So I hope that this celebration goes well. I wish you got your guitar with you. Maybe you have. And for now, I'll say farewell, but first I'll drink a toast to your future. Cheers. Bye now.
Congratulations, Francis Collins.
What?
I and my gloriously sequenced genome could not be more grateful for your years of dedication.
Hello, Francis. When I heard you were stepping down from NIH and that your team was collecting videos they were going to make you watch, I knew I had to send one. Because nominating you to lead NIH back in 2009 was one of the best decisions I made as president. Now, back then, you had already led the Human Genome Project, which would have been enough for most scientists, but you were just getting started. And over the last decade, you have advanced precision medicine, improved our understanding of Ebola and COVID, and accelerated research into everything from cancer to the human brain. You also made science easier to understand, whether you were explaining herd immunity to Stephen Colbert or singing a parody of Puff the Magic Dragon called Poof Coronavirus with a memorable cameo from Diane that upstaged you. So, congratulations, Francis. You have changed the world in ways we are only beginning to appreciate. For that, we will always be grateful. Good luck on the next chapter in the extraordinary and purposeful life that you've been living.
Greetings to those honoring the achievements of Francis Collins. My views on Francis are well known, particularly because I awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2007. And I hear he's kept himself pretty busy ever since. Francis's moral center, his passion for public service, and his boundless scientific curiosity come from the same source, a belief that God is revealed in his creation. Francis has shown how a man of science can be a man of faith without compromising either role. During this pandemic, Laura and I have been reminded how fortunate our nation is for Francis's commitment to public health and public service. So thank you, Francis, for all you've done at the NIH over the past 12 years and all you've done for our country. Laura and I send our best wishes to you and Diane and to all involved with the NIH. Thank you.
Dr. Collins, Francis, Hillary and I are so honored to join your family, friends, colleagues, and many, many admirers in congratulating you on your remarkable tenure as director of the National Institutes of Health and thanking you for a job well done. Throughout your career, you've made incalculable contributions to our country, to scientific understanding, to all of humanity. I'll always be particularly grateful for your extraordinary leadership when I was president and we finished the first map of the human genome, which is already proven to be one of the most important achievements of our time, both for the breathtaking number of medical applications it's made possible and for revealing the simple truth that we are all far more alike than we are different. It's one of the best investments the American taxpayers ever made. I've always admired your dedication to discovery, your passion for public service, your fascinating explorations of the intersections of faith and science. So I can't wait to see what you do next. And as always, I wish you well. Thank you so much for everything.
Dr. Francis Collins, what a pleasure and honor to send you this message. I take tremendous pride in telling people that you were my genetics professor. I got to learn genetics from Francis Collins, who went on to map the human genome. But I'm also going to remember this amazing opportunity I had with you to play music at the Kennedy Center. You on your guitar, me on my accordion, of all instruments. It was one of the best days of my life, in part because we got to do it at all, and in large part because it was with you. I wish you tremendous luck, and I wish you the opportunity to have many more moments like that one that we had at the Kennedy Center. Best of luck, sir. Please stay in touch.
Francis, it's a great honor for me to be able to offer my congratulations and profound thanks as you return to the lab after 12 years of heroic service to our nation. With your brilliant mind, your beautiful heart, and your deep well of compassion for our fellow citizens, you've helped to shepherd us through one of the most frightening chapters in the world's history. You were there for all of us at our country's critical hour. And for your steadfast leadership, our country will forever be beholden to you. Please know how much we love and respect you as one of the true geniuses of our times. I've had the joy of climbing up the branches of your family tree along with you, but like so many, I remain in total awe of what you've done from the branch you sit on. It's a wonder. Thank you, my friend, and congratulations once again.
I'm honored to be asked to be a part of this celebration of you, Francis Collins. And Francis, I decided to write a haiku for you. Passion, faith-informed, musician discoverer, impact on millions. Thank you on behalf of me as a colleague, on behalf of the millions whose lives you've impacted. And Francis, I wish you well in your next endeavor.
We've known each other now for 2 decades, and it's been a great privilege of mine. I've gotten to, of course, experience your scientific greatness in an experience that very few people have had, our weekly Fun with Science meetings where you would tutor and educate me. I've also been very privileged to count you as a friend. You know, in the days after my father died last year, you and the band came over to our house and serenaded us, and it was just such a touching act that really demonstrates the humanity that you bring to everything that you do, Francis. I wish you and Diane all the best in the next professional chapters of your lives.
I can't think of a single time when I met you when you didn't have a smile on your face, when you didn't warmly greet me, and when you didn't invite me and my wife to come to your home and have a meal with you and Diane. I feel like every time I saw you, you said, "Hey, come on over for dinner." And I want to tell you how much that meant to me, especially in the midst of an incredibly divisive environment. Put a pandemic on top of it, and oh my gosh, it's hard to find a friend. But I knew I always had a friend in you. Thanks for all you've done.
I'm sure these clips bring back a lot of memories, Francis.
I'm just astounded by the words and by the people speaking them from all these different perspectives, all people for whom I have the greatest respect. Did not expect to see them all speaking in this way at this moment. Jane Goodall, my dear friend, such a gift for me as NIH director to have a chance to get to know people that probably I never would have crossed paths with before. And with Jane's intense interest in trying to be sure that we were caring for our closest relatives, chimpanzees, we became allies and friends. And ultimately that led to a National Academy study and the decision to retire all of those research chimpanzees to a sanctuary. And the bonus of that was getting to be just really good friends with Dame Jane Goodall and to be able to spend time with her talking about science, talking about life, talking about what really matters, and yes, playing some music. not to mention occasionally sharing a laugh or a sip of what she calls apple juice, which is really whiskey.
Or even a motorcycle ride.
Or a motorcycle ride, which also happened. So, yeah.
I think your reframing of what we do here at NIH as the National Institutes of Hope helps all of us remember why we do what we do. And also, you have an unwavering focus on the welfare of patients. Can you talk about what drives you?
Well, I am a physician as well as a scientist. I got interested in shifting out of my original plan, which was to be a physical chemist, to go into medicine because I felt this calling to do something with my love of science that would benefit people. And that's what medicine allows you to do. Almost every problem I've ever worked on in my own research lab, I first met in a patient in a clinic who had a difficult problem that nobody seemed to know what to do about. So for me, it's always been about the potential of solving a mystery that's going to help somebody. And here at NIH, we have this most remarkable opportunity to do that every day, whether it's in our extramural program funding all of these amazing research projects that go all the way from basic science to clinical trials, or it's this gift of being here on the Bethesda campus with the largest research hospital right there in our midst. We bring the brightest minds, the most amazing visionary ideas, and this determination to make the world a better place. And we bring all that scientific capability together and bring hope to the hopeless, bring answers where there are none. And to see that happening, one person at a time, because that's where it really happens, it's just been an amazing gift.
You've launched a number of initiatives with these goals in mind. And can you just talk about what comes immediately to mind when you think of the big ones that you've launched?
Well, I know some people think the NIH director only cares about big, expensive, complicated projects, because I guess I got that reputation after the human genome. I do want to say the vast majority of the great things that NIH does are not in those big projects. They're done by individual investigators with great ideas that pursue them, and we give them the chance to do so. But there are things that you can't get done that way. And for the NIH director, that's one of your opportunities, and it's kind of your responsibility. Look across that whole landscape of what's happening in biomedical research and say, you know, there's a real potential there. If we got the right disciplinary experts together, we could do something as a team that probably just wouldn't happen without some encouragement. And so I think of the NIH director's job as being an encourager of those kinds of moments. For me, they've come along fairly regularly and in a way that's been incredibly gratifying. The BRAIN Initiative, the idea that we might actually, if we brought together the right kind of experts, be able to understand how those 86 billion neurons between your ears, each of which has about 1,000 connections, do what they do in the normal situation, and then how that is disrupted in conditions like Alzheimer's, like schizophrenia, like autism. That's probably the most complicated structure in the known universe. And probably it's not going to get figured out sort of one little grant at a time. This is going to take a team effort and recruiting a lot of new ideas and new people into that effort, like engineers. And that became the motivation for the BRAIN Initiative, which caught the imagination of the scientific community and also President Obama, and made it possible to launch something that is now in a very exciting phase with hundreds of investigators who've really gotten excited about being part of this. It's a hard problem, but that's why it needed a big, complicated approach with a lot of smart people. That's an example. I could mention others, the cancer moonshots. I could mention certainly the HEAL initiative that we're pursuing on opioids and chronic pain, and precision medicine, which has kind of been a sweet spot for me from the time I was trying to figure out how to make the most of the human genome. I actually wrote a paper back in 2004 proposing a big precision medicine initiative, and it landed with a thud because it was totally impractical then. But 10 years later, electronic health records available, genomic analyses, including complete sequencing, becoming affordable, and a lot more interest in taking part in research in the public. And out of that, again, with the big shout out from President Obama to get it started, came this All of Us initiative, which is past the 400,000 mark in enrollees, headed towards 1 million. And it's going to be such a powerful foundation for understanding not only how to manage illness, but how to prevent it. There's a lot of this about how to individualize health maintenance, getting away from one size fits all to the way in which each one of us is going to have the kind of information we need to stay healthy. That's a good thing.
And the strategy you often take seems to be partnerships you believe in, especially public-private partnerships.
Another thing the NIH director has the opportunity to do is to reach out to other parts of the government and other sectors to build partnerships with industry, with philanthropy, with patient advocacy organizations, because you have that kind of convening power. That's maybe the most important tool the NIH director has, is convening people. Because if I call somebody up and say, well, I want you to get in this meeting 2 weeks from now and give me your best ideas about something, everybody says yes, because they know it's going to make a difference. And I do think for the hardest problems, there's always a good argument for getting all of the potential smart people together instead of parsing it out in bits and pieces.
Now, I know we can't do any of this without the broader biomedical research community. Just want to show you a couple of comments from your colleagues. You'll see many more in the video album, so we'll just take a look.
All right.
I recall fondly our shared joys in celebrating NIH-supported science and our mutual commitments to open science, to training young talent, and to bringing discoveries into medical practice. I'd like to think that even our occasional differences of opinion or style were healthy aspects of our time together. So now, as you depart, I wish you well as you leave the office that we have enjoyed at different times in Building 1. Thank you.
Great leaders are defined by how they tackle challenges in difficult times like you have, in a time of pandemic, in a time of very contentious partisanship in Washington. You've been able to maintain bipartisan support for the NIH. You've been able to lead the institution into a better place. You're leaving the institution in a stronger place. Frankly, I also admire your self-sacrifice. In difficult situations, you decide to stay at the helm and continue to lead the NIH for the benefit of the entire country. It is something that is admirable, that I personally appreciate, and I also believe that you will be remembered as one of the best directors of the NIH.
Over 12 years at the helm of the NIH, you have helped to advance both basic science and translational medicine, saving countless lives. As director of the National Human Genome Research Institute from 1993 to 2008, you led the Human Genome Project, which has revolutionized our understanding of health and disease and contributed significantly to our ability to battle COVID-19. Here at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, all of us wish you the very best in this next chapter of your remarkable career. We thank you for who you are. We thank you for your service to our nation and to humanity as a whole. All the best.
You have led the institutes through a transforming era of human genetics and genomics. But I want to thank you for being a terrific supporter of neuroscience in basic science like the Brain Initiative and in disease-related work like the new Alzheimer's Initiative. I want to thank you for supporting early career investigators and for championing biomedical research in Congress so that NIH now has many friends. And finally, I want to thank you personally for taking the time to mentor me and many others in leadership.
At a time when great science is more important to humankind than ever before, but also threatened by an unfortunate public skepticism, you've been steadfast, and we are all the beneficiaries. I know I speak for every member of our council in expressing that it's been a true honor to serve you in our advisory capacity. Your scientific leadership will be missed, but we will also miss your and Diane's informal dinners at your home, invariably accompanied, of course, with your entertaining us with your guitar. I'm happy for you, Francis, and a little envious that you'll be returning to your lab full-time in the new year. I know that great research and science will come from there, just as it's come from the NIH throughout the 12 years of your leadership.
Well, every one of those people are remarkable leaders in biomedical research, have done amazing things, and for them to speak this way is, gives me quite a warm feeling and a lump in my throat. I have such admiration for every one of them. And for somebody like Corey Bargmann to say that I mentored her, I always felt like she was mentoring me as she led us through that really complicated process of designing the BRAIN Initiative. I guess we're all mentoring each other when we don't realize it.
Just as important as all the scientific work, we've also seen you address social issues such as harassment and diversity and racial equity. Let's take a look at a clip from someone I'm sure you'll recognize.
Hello, Dr. Collins. On behalf of the Lax family, we're wishing you a new journey of happiness and success in the new page of your life. Just remember, we will always cherish the friendship we developed and thank you from the bottom of our hearts for all your precious time you have given us throughout the years. Be well, continue the good work, and keep in touch. God bless you.
How's it feel to hear her words? And also, what has happened over the last couple of years that's really, especially over the last couple of years, that's really driven you to take action?
I'm very moved by having words from Jerry. That whole experience of getting to know the Lax family as we struggled with what was the right thing to do about access to the genome sequence of HeLa cells derived from Jerry's grandmother, Henrietta Lax, and to make sure that we were doing this in a way that was responsible, that lived up to their expectations, where they wanted science to proceed, but wanted their own concerns about disclosures, since they had become very public figures, to be considered. I learned a lot in those meetings over pizza at Hopkins with the Lax family, hearing what their experience had been. It really changed me. It was a great example, though, of how we really always have to think about in biomedical research, not just the next experiment and the next publication that ends up making a splash, but how does that affect people in all sorts of levels? That is something that I've tried, maybe especially in the last few years, to really highlight that we are part of a society that has dreams and also has challenges and even has a history that is shot through with inequities. The Lax family is a great example of what that has meant based on 400 years of structural racism built into this country's approach to almost everything. And to recognize that that also is part of our institution, NIH, to admit that and to say directly to those who have had negative consequences that we're sorry about that we need to do something to make this better. And that incorporates everything we're now trying to do with the Unite initiative, to build a more diverse and welcoming workforce, to revamp our health disparities research agenda, to really focus on the fundamentals and what could be done about them. Tied up in here also are other areas where maybe our attention to human issues in our own workforce had been less than it should be, and that's the sexual harassment issues, which I think we had to face and had not really done so until a few years ago. That was wrenching, but it was exactly what we needed to do. And to hear the stories from people whose experiences are hard to listen to, but if we don't listen to them, then we're not going to change things. We don't have that all figured out yet, but I think we're in a lot better place. Harassment doesn't work here, and racial discrimination doesn't work here either. I think having brought this institution a few steps further there, I'm optimistic that despite those centuries of history here, we have a chance to make ourselves more welcoming, more equitable, as long as we don't lose that vision. And right now, I think the vision has completely spread across this institution. I'm really excited to see what's happened there.
Thank you. Now, you've devoted significant amounts of time and attention to communication. And why, in your mind, is communication so important to an organization that is about science and public health? And I don't mean just the media, but your engagement with Congress, with advocates, with outside organizations. I'd like to, before you respond, I'd just like to show you a clip from somebody you've gotten to know well.
'Twas the night before retirement, and throughout Building 1, not a scientist was stirring. All the research was done. The microscopes were nestled away in the lab. After 12 years of work, there was no more to be had. The goggles were hung in the cabinet with care in hopes that Francis Collins soon would be there. Francis made great discoveries, served 3 presidents, found the gene for Huntington's, and away disease went. He mapped the genome and funded CAR-T. He hired 21 IC directors, but none were Fauci. He tackled the brain and cancer moonshot. He targeted medical challenges and hit the right spot. He came to the Hill with great success. NIH funding increased, and he said, "Thank you, God bless." Then 2020 came along with COVID-19. Let me take a moment to set the scene. The world was on lockdown. We were confined to our homes, but that didn't stop Francis from studying chromosomes. He continued to work, socially distanced from all. When he logged in on Zooms, they'd ask, "Why not a call?" He told them of breakthroughs. They said, "You're on mute." He had velour track pants on beneath his blue suit. Then, more rapid than reindeer, with warp speed they came. NIH researchers celebrated and shouted their names. Now Pfizer, now Moderna, create a vaccine. Use medical research to end quarantine. Flatten the curve, send the message to all. Slow the spread, and COVID will fall. These years have been hard. Francis is due a vacation, but the thing he wanted most, emergency use authorization. "Come on, team," Francis said, "we have a great opportunity. If we vaccinate more, we can reach herd immunity." Due to his leadership, we've become COVID wiser in hopes that we will all be protected by something like Pfizer. We've had treatments and vaccines, and thanks to research, Francis led us to many from atop his high perch. As Francis' tenure at NIH draws to an end, we must say goodbye to one of the best of our friends. And I know he'll exclaim as he and Diane drive out of sight, "Good luck to you all. Keep up the good fight."
I want to thank Dr. Francis Collins for his steadfast leadership of the National Institutes of Health for this past 13 years. Guided by both reason and faith, he changed the course of biomedical research around the world and challenged the boundaries of science. Several years ago, I was thrilled to invite Dr. Collins to share his writings and faith with my colleagues in the Congress, who were gathered in my home here in Washington, D.C. It was such a special evening, and I was so grateful to have his voice leading the conversation. That night, Dr. Collins proved once again that when it comes to faith and reason, the two do not have to be in conflict. And at the end of the evening, he sang and he played his guitar for us. His brilliance beyond science and religion was certainly on full display for the group. With Dr. Collins' departure, we are not just losing someone with unparalleled expertise from the highest role at the NIH, but I am losing a trusted voice and a dear friend. With that, I will simply say that this is not the end for Dr. Francis Collins, but a new beginning, and I cannot wait to see what exciting challenges he will embark on beyond his time at the National Institutes of Health.
Well, I was very touched by Senator Blunt and Chairman DeLauro's comments. My goodness, I do think of both of those folks as dear friends. I've thought since I came to NIH in 1993 that it's an incredible privilege to be able to be here. And we should never think of ourselves as just entitled for the resources that flow. Those are basically given to us in the expectation we will be good stewards, money that's coming from the public and the decisions being made about that by members of Congress. So we absolutely need to explain ourselves, need to share the reasons why we've made decisions about particular directions for research to go, need to celebrate the achievements and grieve over the failures altogether. I've probably had 1,000 one-on-one meetings with members of Congress in the last 12 years. And almost all of those have been really wonderfully positive experiences, because what I have to tell them is not a special interest. It's not some political message that I want them to embrace. It's about how we're saving lives, about how we're answering questions, how we're uncovering mysteries about how life works that nobody knew before. And everybody wants to see those things happen, and everybody wants to see the consequences in terms of advances in medicine for themselves, their families, their friends, their communities, their constituents. I have a great message that I can share, but it isn't going to get out there unless you share it. So I think that is a big part of the responsibility. And that extends beyond the Congress to the people, because, you know, we serve them and they have a right to find out what we're doing. And also, if we've accomplished something that can help people have a healthier lifespan, we want to be sure they've heard about it. So we work pretty hard at that.
I think that's been a rather unique feature of your tenure is how much you've engaged or even performed with musicians, writers, poets, actors. You have your own house band, the Affordable Rock and Roll Act. But before you talk about that, let's hear from some of your friends.
Oh boy.
Dear Dr. Collins, I just want to congratulate you on the incredible achievement of lasting through 3 different presidencies to lead the NIH, this incredibly important organization for global health. You've decided to move on. I get it. Yes, the call of the solo album is a very strong one. I feel it myself. So based on my experience of your guitar playing in your office, I think it's going to be an incredible album. If you need any advice on guitar sounds, I'm always here to help.
Thank you for everything you've done for humankind, and to wish you the very best wherever you're going to go for the rest of this journey. Such a combination of science and humanism and art and kindness. I feel so privileged to have met you. You've been a great inspiration to me. Your mother was a playwright. And just your sense of humility, your ability to engage, your charm, your lack of pomposity, all of that has been so important in addition to all of your science. So I'm here to say I wish I were with you today to say congratulations, Godspeed, and thank you.
I just wanted to send a quick video to congratulate you on your work at the NIH, and I think we're all better for you being there. It was an honor and a privilege playing music with you and Rudy Tanzi and the other scientists at the Capitol for the Rock Stars of Science project. And you are truly a rock star of science.
You are a true Renaissance person, proof that the sciences and the arts are not enemies, but in fact are helpmeets. Who else can list on their resume single-word entries such as genome, guitar, golden plate, motorcycles, music?
We interrupt this program for breaking news. Francis Collins is leaving his fabulously successful rock and roll band at the NIH. The beloved scientist rock star who directed the Human Genome Project, led the NIH to extraordinary new heights, and helped the world withstand COVID, has left his rock fans despondent. Around the world, fans are holding midnight vigils.
Disease don't care if you're rich or poor. Disease will find a way to come a-knocking at your door.
This reporter can only say, along with everyone else, we'll miss you, Francis.
Listen, there is a rumor going around that you are making some changes, some adjustments in your adventure. And so I just want to let you know, congratulations on what you've done and looking forward to see where you're going to go in the future. Lionel Richie is here, of course. In case you want to play, I'm available. Congratulations, Doc. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy.
Hello, Francis. It's hard to believe it's been 3.5 years since you so graciously hosted me at the NIH. Jim and I had a wonderful time that day. It gave us even greater appreciation of NIH's groundbreaking medical research that we've all come to rely on. I just want to take a moment to congratulate you on your spectacular 12-year run as the NIH director. Your combination of brilliance, humility, and your love of the arts makes you one of the most distinctive and original scientific leaders of our time. And I want to especially thank you for helping us get through this pandemic. I'm glad to hear you're not retiring, but merely stepping down. Don't step too far. You know, we need you. By the way, thank you so much for letting us put female mice into the laboratories. And, you know, if you ever need a job, you can always accompany me on the guitar.
We thank you. The human species thanks you all around the world, and your life that shows that human brilliance, your compassion, your kindness, and your deep spirituality, plus your artistry, are not mutually exclusive. I want to tell you that I am very, very happy to be part of your band. Let's keep making music. Let's keep playing. And of course, I know you'll keep working because you have so much still to offer. Much, much love.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Dear Frances, through time and space, through turmoil and turbulent times, you have led this nation. You have given us legitimate hope. You've given us the scaffolding leading to legitimate hope, balancing the better angels of our nature with nature and human nature. You have our gratitude, and you have my personal thanks.
Wow. Frances, were you intentionally trying to bring arts and sciences together? And why?
I'm still a little overwhelmed by yo-yos. Playing and speaking. Wow. I don't know that I had a plan about arts and science coming together. It's always been something that's meant a lot to me, growing up in a family that was all about theater and music, a father who was a folk song collector and a violin player, and myself learning to play instruments as a kid because that's what you did after dinner. And that's always been a source of joy, especially if you could do it with other people. And I guess as a result of that, I've had the opportunity at times to connect with musicians, whether it was taking kids from the Children's Inn to a U2 concert because the Edge made that possible, or it was a chance to invite cultural lectures to come to NIH and to include people like Renee Fleming and Yo-Yo Ma. All of those experiences seemed to really touch people in a deep way. Certainly touched me, but I could see it was happening to lots of others. And we ought to be able to bring together the neuroscientists who are studying that, the musicians, and the music therapists who have been using music as a means of providing healing to people with all kinds of conditions, everything from Alzheimer's to PTSD to kids with autism. But they've been traveling on a separate path with the neuroscientists. Let's bring them together and see what they can teach each other. Out of that came the Sound Health Program, the Music in the Brain program that now NIH is funding to try to see what we could do. It's just another example where some of the most exciting things happen when you bring people together who just hardly can understand each other at first because they have such different perspectives and different language. But then when it starts to click, a big void that had been there starts to get filled in with new ideas, new approaches, and they each inspire each other. And I see that happening now with music and neuroscience, and it's exhilarating to watch.
Now, to change gears a little bit, we can't talk about your tenure without discussing the COVID-19.
No, I was thinking that would probably come up.
The top three things that come to mind when you think of what you've gone through, what we have gone through over the last almost 2 years.
Top three, my mind immediately goes to the sort of three areas of science that we have tried to move forward at unprecedented speed. And I got to say right up front, the scientific community's response to this worst pandemic in more than a century has just been amazing. People have dropped everything. They have worked 24/7 against great obstacles, many of them not even able to come safely to their usual workspace. They have ignored the usual constraints on how people can work together and just knocked down all those barriers. And amazing things have happened. In the three areas, one is vaccines, and the 25 years that went into figuring out how mRNA might potentially be used in this space was in exactly the right place. With the work at our Vaccine Research Center with Barney Graham and Kizzmekia Corbett and John Mascola and Tony Fauci and all those amazing people to take what otherwise would have been a 5-year process if you were lucky and turn it into an 11 months amazing success story on developing vaccines. Therapeutics, another leg of our three-legged stool here. We were needing to find as fast as we could treatments for people who were sick. And there were a lot of things out there that were being advertised as, oh, this is the answer and that's the answer, and most of them weren't. We needed rigorous science. And that's a place where we needed to have all the partners together. One of the things I spent most of my time on for the last 2 years is developing this partnership called ACTIV, which has 20 pharmaceutical companies, NIH, CDC, FDA, managed by the Foundation for NIH brilliantly, and which made it possible to prioritize which of the therapies ought to be tested, to design master protocols, to put together clinical trial networks that hadn't existed before, and in record time to run through, and we're still running through some other ideas, come up with therapeutics like monoclonal antibodies that have now saved many lives. The third area is the testing, the diagnostics. Congress worried that that was off to a rough start, and it kind of was, and said to NIH, come on people, let's do some technology development here. And out of that was born, in about 5 days, the RADx program, Rapid Acceleration of Diagnostics, which today has put no less than 34 new technologies all the way through an incredibly bold innovation funnel. And those are out there now, making it possible for about 3 million tests to happen today, all approved by FDA because we work so closely with them. And that's been an amazing, and we've even had a part of that focused on underserved populations who have been hit so hard with COVID-19 and have shown a bright light on the health disparities and the racial inequities in our healthcare system. If you needed any more evidence of it, there it was. And that had to be part of our responsibility to address as well. All of those things made it possible for these scientific achievements to happen and for those lives to be saved as a result.
One result of the pandemic was an unprecedented amount of engagement with NIH staff. And could you talk about why that was so important?
We were facing this incredible challenge, first in 100 years. We weren't going to get the job done without having everybody linked up, trying to solve the problem. That was everything from how do we keep our own workforce safe? This group that initially met every morning at 7:30, and we still meet on a regular basis to make sure that we've managed that part in the best way. Larry Tabak and Alfred Johnson have just been amazing in steering that ship. And we've all gotten to know each other really well with those not for breakfast calls at 7:30. But scientifically, it also meant pulling some of our leaders into new roles that they hadn't quite expected. 4th of July weekend in 2020, where I called up Gary Gibbons and Eliseo Perez Dable and said, guys, I need your help. We are not finding it as successful as it needs to be to recruit diverse participants in these vaccine trials and in therapeutic trials. We've got to figure out how to do community engagement in new ways. And they both said, yes, of course. And then their lives were utterly disrupted from that point forward, and still are. But nobody ever said no. They said, thank you for asking. That's something I can do. Bruce Tromberg, who was only fairly recently arrived at NIH, found himself suddenly running RADx with incredible demands and expectations coming from everywhere, especially the Congress, and did so brilliantly, although I doubt if he was quite expecting to be put in such an intense, demanding role, but managed to build those same kinds of collaborative relationships almost overnight. So yeah, everybody pitched in. Everybody found a way to bring their talents. People in the intramural scientific community who hadn't worked on viruses decided, hey, I've got something I could do here, and came up with a research plan and contributed as well.
And you've alone sent out a weekly email to staff. You've had virtual town halls, home editions. You've gone around on a gratitude tour. Can you talk a little bit about all those efforts to engage staff?
Well, this comes down to this sense that I have that NIH is not just an institution. It's not just a government bureaucracy, although people outside might think that. It's a family. I've always felt that way. And I've tried, particularly with help from Diane, to be sure that comes across, that people are not being taken for granted because you happen to have a government job. No, we care about you. We want to understand what you have in the way of gifts to bring to this mission, and then let's all do things together. So it seemed particularly appropriate when everybody is stressed by this COVID pandemic, disrupting their professional and their personal lives in ways that nobody was planning for. Let's be sure we're communicating about that. We did this home edition set of videos where I would interview oftentimes one of the institute directors about the part they were playing and how that was being affected by COVID. All of those town meetings that we had to try to give an opportunity for myself and other leaders to explain some of the decisions that were being made about things like the workplace and to handle questions. It was pretty astounding. Many of those town meetings, more than 10,000 linked up to hear what was going on. And I do think, because I have heard a lot of emails back from people, that made a difference. They felt connected. They felt like they were really part of something that mattered, and that they were not being taken for granted, and that their struggles were being noticed and their achievements were being recognized. And that's the way it ought to be.
Thank you. We're going to hear from your colleagues now.
Words that describe Francis Collins: brilliant, creative, and compassionate.
I particularly appreciate his warmth, humility, and humanity.
Dr. Collins is profoundly enigmatic because he is both highly extroverted and supremely introspective.
Passion, vision, and determination, but I would also add principled.
It's a spellbinding story of a superluminary scientist, maestro of medicine, orchestrator of breakthroughs that changed the world.
Brilliant and humane scientist, courageous and highly effective communicator, and inspirational visionary.
Francis has passion for science, charm from congressional staff, and courage to do the right thing.
Band leader, composer,
troubadour.
Social-minded, impassioned, demystifying.
Always thoughtful, completely genuine.
Francis Collins is a brilliant communicator of science.
Authentic, effective, supportive.
Francis is inspirational, wise, and of course, a rock star.
Super optimistic, always engaged, and very persistent.
Brilliant, innovative, compassionate.
My 3 favorite words about you are passionate, creative, and tenacious. Thank you so much for your leadership over the last 12 years. NIH and NCATS are standing strong, and your legacy will inspire those who follow. Many, many warm wishes to you and Diane.
Francis is an outstanding scientific leader, but he's also an inspirational spiritual leader.
Francis is a multi-talented man of deep faith, insatiable curiosity, intrepid seeker of truth, who's compelled us collectively to reach unprecedented heights through his bold and visionary leadership.
I wrote a haiku about Francis. A scientific and political wizard is Francis Collins.
Well, Francis, I'm not going to sing, but instead I want to say thank you for changing my life, and more importantly, for changing the entire world through the brilliant work that you've done. Congratulations.
Francis, it's been a delight working with you in this role. Thank you for your mentorship, your leadership, and your friendship. You've shepherded the NIH through an absolutely tumultuous period and done a fantastic job. I think history will remember you as one of the great American leaders of biomedical research and a tremendous advocate for the public health.
Francis, you remind us day in and out what great leaders and people do. They inspire by example, listen well, share wisdom generously, and stay persistently focused on the greater good.
Goodbye, Francis. You served this nation well. Godspeed and fare thee well.
Hello, Francis. You have been an inspirational leader with a powerful vision. You've left quite a mark on the NIH. It's been truly a pleasure working with you, and thank you for everything you have done.
If I were going to make one comment about Francis's time as our director of NIH, I would have to comment on the fact that he hired 11 of the 12 current women leaders. He gave women a voice at the table, not only at the table in the room where it happens, but also by publicly declaring that Manos would be a thing of the past. We're very grateful, Francis.
When Francis left the NHGRI NESC more than a decade ago and became the NIH director, we knew he would be a visionary and truly transformative leader, and he has exceeded all of our expectations. But per our devious plan, now every NIH institute and center funds genomics research. With that mission accomplished, we're now thrilled to welcome Francis back to his NHGRI family and his genomics roots.
Francis, over these past 12 years, you've been a passionate, visionary thinker, mover and shaker, turning big, bold ideas into game-changing programs. Francis, it's been a real joy to work with you these 12 years in global health, and we still have a lot to do. Thank you so much for this extraordinary experience in mentoring me.
Hey, Francis. I greatly appreciate that John Berklow has given me permission to speak for more than just a few words or a single sentence on the occasion of the celebration of your retirement as NIH director. It has been a privilege and an honor to have been your friend and colleague over the last 3 decades, from your 15 years as the director of the National Human Genome Research Institute and your historic 12 years serving 3 presidents of both parties as a director of NIH. You are indeed a most extraordinary and unique individual in the most positive sense. Most of the center and institute directors have known you only in your capacity as the NIH director, and so what I will say is quite familiar to them. Your combination of intellectual brilliance, unflinching scholarship, unquestionable integrity, and deep sense of humanity is apparent to all who interact with you. Your leadership of the greatest biomedical research institution in the world is recognized throughout the world. You have never retreated from tackling difficult problems, and you have always been supportive of us directors. This is particularly evident to me in your steadfast defense of me in the midst of vicious attacks on me and my family by radical elements in society. Your magnificent and unprecedented ability to articulate to the Congress, the administration, the scientific community, and the public in general the importance of the support of biomedical research has resulted in a truly historic increase in the NIH budget over the years of your tenure. Your deep commitment to racial, ethnic, and gender equity in science is widely recognized and highly praised. I have been in the unique position over the past 2 years to work closely with you literally on a daily basis under these most stressful circumstances of COVID-19, and I can attest to the fact that you have demonstrated an extraordinary capability of rising to the occasion in a field that is not your primary area of subject matter expertise, and of emerging in that setting as a leader admired and respected by everyone with whom you come into contact. I know that I speak for the senior leadership as well as the rank and file of the NIH when I say that we are eternally grateful for the spectacular scientific, administrative, and moral leadership that you have shown us during your historic tenure as NIH director. We will greatly miss you, as well as your wonderful partner, the First Lady of NIH, Diane Baker. The one saving grace as we come to the end of this tenure is that you will still be a very important member of the NIH family, hopefully for a considerable period of time looking forward. On behalf of the NIH community, I want to express our deep appreciation and sincere thanks for all you have done for us. God bless you and Godspeed in your next adventure.
Wow. Your reaction to the words of your colleagues?
I'm pretty stunned. Such gracious, wonderful words from all of these folks, many but not all of whom I've hired, and give me great confidence that NIH is in terrific hands. And then to hear those words from my friend Tony Fauci, who's been through so much in the last 2 years and has contributed over more than 3 decades, just in amazing ways, to the progress in infectious disease. We have really been partners for these 2 years. I knew Tony before that, but boy, do I know him now. What an amazing human being. And I've been enriched so many ways by all of my Institute director friends. Some of them mentioned again the word mentoring. I felt like they mentored me. I learned a lot from every one of them about their area of expertise, and they helped me see how to be a better director by nurturing their dreams, because that's what we do here. People would look at the NIH organizational chart and say, this can't possibly work, but it works because of those people. That, yeah, we have a lot of leaders, but they all have the right skills, the right vision, the right intentions to make the world a better place together. And it means we have this incredible brain trust. And boy, do we need it more than ever going forward. So many opportunities, responsibilities, and challenges.
And you're going to hear from many others on the video album. So this is just a portion. Now, let's talk about faith. As I recall, a few people were concerned when you took the job in 2009 that your religious beliefs would have an undue influence on your leadership. But how has faith guided you? And could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, there were concerns. There was a famous op-ed in the New York Times when Obama had nominated me saying, this is a terrible mistake. this person actually is a Christian who actually believes that stuff, and undoubtedly that will have to mean all kinds of crazy decisions are going to get made. I was puzzled by that. I was not always a believer. I became a believer in my 20s, and it never seemed to me there was an issue here about being able to explore truth from both a spiritual and a scientific perspective, as long as you're careful about which kind of question you're trying to answer. If it's a question about how nature is actually put together, how life works, how disease happens, those are scientific questions. And we have amazing tools of science, which, by the way, I think are also a gift from God. And we should use them. And we should be really rigorous about the way we approach a problem and critical of results until we're sure they're right and anchor ourselves in truth in every way. But there's some kind of questions that don't seem to have much of a chance of a scientific answer, like, why is there something instead of nothing? Why am I here? What's the point of all this? How did this all start? Where are we all going after we die? Questions of that sort. Is there a God? Does God care about me? Science doesn't really help you so much there. And either you have to decide those are just off the table. Those are inappropriate to talk about or think about, or you have to find some other way to approach them. And for me, that has been faith. And I find that incredibly rewarding to be able in a given day to explore all those issues. Or the experience of music, which for me is also sort of spiritual. I'm sure you can all put it together with which neurons just fired when I heard that particular movement of Beethoven's Third Symphony, but it's putting me in touch with something deeper than that. And I don't want to run away from that. I want to embrace that. I do think if people looked at my 12 years as NIH director, they would not find examples of what the op-ed was worried about. I don't think my particular spiritual perspective or the fact that I'm a Christian has influenced any of the real decisions that I had to make, because they're scientific decisions. They needed to be made scientifically. I am probably interested at a level that goes pretty deep in ethical considerations, and the basis of morality is something that I struggle with and try to sort out, and that gets me connected also to my faith foundation. But I generally come out in a pretty similar place to other people who don't share that faith. I would say that's an indication of the fact that all of us have been given by the Creator with a sense that morality matters, that there is an important aspect of our calling to try to do the right thing and to avoid the wrong thing.
You know, I like dates. March 7th, 2014, the day the Dalai Lama visited the NIH. He was not able to make a video. However, he did send a letter to you. And I'll just read the first paragraph. Dear Dr. Collins, I understand that you are stepping down as director of the National Institutes of Health in the USA after more than 12 years. As you know, I had the honor of visiting the NIH in March 2014. May I express my appreciation of all that you have accomplished during your tenure to improve the health of so many people throughout the world. Yours sincerely, the Dalai Lama.
Oh my gosh. That is incredible. That was a day. Oh my gosh, that was a day.
That was a day.
Such a presence of joyfulness and of optimism and of love. I mean, this guy just radiates love. That's really special.
Thank you. Last but not certainly least, I want to ask you about your partner in crime, Diane Baker. And yes, she has done her own video. So let's take a look.
Hi, Francis. I want to add my voice to all those celebrating you and say also I'm going to be glad to see a little more of you around the house. Of course, no one sees as much of you as Zoe does, but then I don't fit on your desk. I thought your colleagues might like to see the green room where you prepare for all those media interviews. And it looks like sometimes you even take your slippers off. But my favorite part is here behind the door. The blazer that you're so fond of, and which you're always telling me, Diane, no one can see your elbows on Zoom. So I occasionally bring a little sandwich into Francis, and I've learned this technique where I have there's one little opening here under the screen, and I take the sandwich and I just sort of slide it in and pull my hand back because there's always a paw reaching out to grab it. I don't know if it's Zoe or Francis. So Francis, I guess I don't need to wear this around the house anymore, but I just want to say I know you left it all on the field at a place we both dearly love, NIH.
Francis, when you first became director, you said the best part of hiring you for the job was that Diane Baker, your wife, was to come along with the deal. Could you talk about what it has meant for you to go through this journey with Diane and your family by your side?
It's meant everything. We talked about how we might approach this when I was first nominated by President Obama, and one of those conversations around the kitchen table, which is where most things seem to happen in our house, agreed that if it was going to be worth doing, it was going to be something we would do together in every way. And Diane put herself, heart and soul, into that from the beginning, figuring out ways to help with the charities, with the Friends of Patients at NIH, the Children's Inn, with Camp Fantastic, all of those things where she was always available, always willing to help, including taking on significant leadership roles. But more than that, we were committed from the beginning, if we're doing this together, that ought to be a way to encourage everybody else at NIH to feel like their personal experiences matter too. It's not just the professional duties, it's also who you are, what you care about. And if we could convey that sense, that would be a gift. We could do that together. And Diane had this amazing ability to identify ways for that to come across. She edited a lot of my messages to staff to try to be sure that that personal touch was not hard to find. It had to be there. She showed up all the time for every kind of NIH event, whether it was Bike to Work Day, or whether it was Take a Hike Day. Diane was always there, wanted to take part. Our gratitude tours, which we're doing now, to say thank you to an amazing group of mostly unsung heroes. Diane said, oh, I want to be part of that too. I want to tell these people how much they mattered. And a lot of people wrote notes saying, what you said was nice, but it was really nice hearing that from Diane. And of course, for me personally, these 12 years have been at times almost overwhelming with the stresses, the pressures, especially the last 2 years, and having my soulmate, my companion, my best friend, my lover, all part of that, wrapped up together so that we could handle whatever came along as a couple. And she always was ready to do that. So I have been extremely fortunate to have such a partner through all these 12 years, and more to come.
So before I ask you to, if you have any final remarks, I just want to say it's been an honor and a privilege to work for you, Francis. So thank you. So are there any final words before we wrap up? And before you get to it, I do want to do one last commercial for the video album, which will have a multitude of messages and comments and tributes from a whole host of folks. And it's really incredible, so I encourage everybody to take a look. So I'll now turn it over to you for your final remarks.
Well, John, thank you for all the work you did to put together this program. I'm totally blown away. People watching this may have thought maybe I had seen those videos ahead of time. I hadn't, so I'm still kind of like in a bit of shock and amazement and feeling a little emotional by all of the comments and all the people that you lined up to speak them from various perspectives. That's just been awesome to see. But in terms of something I might want to say, maybe I'll now speak to the wonderful, remarkable, amazing team of dedicated people at NIH. It has been an amazing privilege to serve as your director for these 12 years. When I started out, I was pretty uncertain about how it was going to go or what I really should be focused on, who I could count on. And it turned out I could count on all of you. That as ideas came forward, people joined in. People were willing to say to me, that's a good one. And they were also willing to say, you probably don't want to do that. And I valued that. The openness that we've had at NIH with each other in a loving way, in a supportive way, has made it so much more possible to do amazing things. And all of you have created that environment for me. And that's from every kind of perspective, from people who are working in the office that deals with research facilities and all the way to institute directors. We're all part of this, and it has felt that way for these 12 years. I will step back into the lab and kind of use the time to try to figure out what my next calling is, because I really don't know, and it's going to be nice not to know for a while and see sort of how that plays out. But I will carry with me this amazing privilege and opportunity to have been your director. And I hope if any of you who are listening to this are also wondering about what's next for you, that you will use every opportunity to see what NIH can provide in terms of new doors that open. You can help us make our workplace to be the most supportive, the most welcoming possible. That's a big shared effort that we all have. And we can look over the horizon as this COVID pandemic will ultimately come into a more stable place and see the amazing flowering of biomedical research that's happening all around us in so many other ways. I would just say it's been an absolute joy to be a public servant. Public service doesn't necessarily get the kind of positive attributes attached to it that maybe it once did, but that's just not right. To be able to do what you all do and what I've been able to do in the service of humanity gives life the kind of purpose that we're all looking for. You have a purpose. The NIH has a noble mission. You don't have to think when you wake up in the morning whether what you're doing matters, because it matters a lot. And together, over the course of these 12 years, we've done amazing things and much more to come. Lives are being changed, suffering is being addressed, mysteries are being solved. That's what we get to do at this remarkable moment in history. So I won't be far away. I will do my best to contribute in whatever way makes the most sense through the lab and whatever else might be the next calling that I don't even quite know about yet. But I will always be grateful for this chance to serve you. Along with Diane, we just want to say thank you and God bless.
But now those days are gone and I'm not so self-assured.